Well, greetings and hello there, everybody. It's me, your beloved Star Wars dad, Nooch Too Good, and I've been meaning to make a video on it already, and today on stream we did a roster review for Sensuna, who is one of our mods on the channel, and she said, should I farm for the upcoming raid on my roster? And I said, well, how do you do? Let's have a conversation about it. So we're going to cover some very important questions on this video today for should you farm for the upcoming Jedi Temple raid. Now, before we get into those questions, I'm going to ask them one by one as we go through. We'll put some nice timestamps in for you guys. I'm going to start with me, with my view on the raids and how I have always looked at them ever since we had the Crate Dragon come out a couple of years ago. So every 8 to 9 months, we get a new raid. This one's lasting more like 12 to 14 months. You get the idea, though. New raids come out. We farm for new raids. We get teams in there. The first raid was like Scoundrels and Old Republic and Jawas and Tuskens. It was on Tatooine. The next raid was Rebels on Endor. Then our third raid here was a bunch of Galactic Republic, let's pull it up here, a bunch of Galactic Republic and Separatists and Gungans on Naboo. So that's what we've had for our raids so far. My general view all along the way is I generally don't step out of my way to try and farm for raids as they're coming up. I'll develop the teams as I go, but the only teams they announce early enough for you to actually farm them are the pay-to-play teams, the pay-to-win teams. And right now, I'm looking at Sensuna. This is on Sensuna's roster right now. Right now, the teams that they've announced would be a bunch of clones. The new Bad Batch and the new the Jedi Vanguard, of course, and then the new clones for Lord Vader are all going to be in the new raid, right? But all of those characters, outside of, I guess, Jocasta Nu, and probably some other Jedi Vanguard, they're all going to be pay to play, right? If the raid comes out in June-ish, July-ish, something like that, you're looking at having a raid that consists of a bunch of characters you will have had to pay a bunch of money for to get on your roster. So that'll be one of the questions we ask. But let's get started first. So that's my philosophy is I don't generally farm for the raids, but I do develop teams for the raids as I go along on my roster because then they're more, they're more developable for me without having to spend a bunch of money up front for them. And I certainly will have some characters on my roster that will assist with that. We'll take a look at my roster at the end here as well. So Sensuna asked today, should I farm for the raid? So the very first question you got to ask yourself is, what characters are going to be required for the Jedi Temple raid? And I look here at the Naboo raid because there's going to be some overlap here. I think we all believe that. We were talking about it in chat today. And Deacon brought it up as well, and I think it was a really good point. There's very likely to be some overlap here. We look primarily at there's a bunch of Galactic Republic Jedi that are out there for the Naboo raid, and we're gonna see. You're gonna see Kelleran Beck. He has to be in this raid, right? He has to be in the Jedi Temple raid. What the heck if he's not? Ki-Adi-Mundi died in the Jedi Temple raid. In the Jedi Temple, he was there. Shakti was getting killed there. We have to assume like Jedi Consular, Jedi Knight Guardian, these are going to be some of our Jedi, what are they called again? Not Jedi Guardians, Jedi, what do we got? Jedi Vanguard, who will be in the raid as well. So what characters are going to be in there? We're going to have some overlap. Most likely, again, this is all conjecture, so don't get in there and take it seriously. And that's one thing I'm going to point out here as we go. This is all, we're guessing a lot here, so we'll talk about a strategy for that guessing as we get forward here too. So if you're gonna farm for the raid, Kelleran Beck, Ayla Secura was not in the temple at the time, and I think that since they use her in Naboo, they're not gonna use her here. Jedi Consular makes sense to be in there. He is Jedi Vanguard. Barriss Offee makes a lot of sense. She was not there for the Naboo raid. Barriss Offee's going to be in there for sure. Guardian will be, it's just Guardian, Jedi Consular, Shakti, like I mentioned, they got to be in there. Kelleran Beck, they got to be in there. You can really count on Ima Gunday to show up because not in the Naboo raid, going to be out there. And I wouldn't be shocked if a couple more of these Jedi showed up as well as characters required for this raid. But I really think the place to focus on here is going to be on our clone troopers. And I'm going to flip over to my roster for this. Let's go take a look at my roster and my clone troopers right now. Because I really think that outside of Captain Rex, outside of Captain Rex, I would not be surprised one bit if every single other clone trooper was involved in this raid. We already know the new Bad Batch are going to be there, but are the new Bad Batch? Let me go look that up. Okay, yes. So the Lord Vader raid, final name to be determined. Whatever, Jedi Temple raid, Anakin kills younglings raid, whatever I'm going to call it. New Bad Batch squad, era of Revenge of the Sith characters, as well as Transmission Lost, right? So new Bad Batch, all the new clones, the Jedi Vanguard in there, and we can assume a lot of the characters I mentioned already will be in the Lord Vader raid. So Vader raid, right? Okay, that Vader raid's actually a guy on the channel. So, but it's all right. So we got to look at Bad Batch here because for whatever reason, no comment. These guys are not clone troopers. Why? Nobody knows. The new Bad Batch are not clone troopers, but they will be out there for the raid. It's very fair to assume that the original Bad Batch will be there for the raid as well. I just believe with the amount of characters that were there for the other raid, they can put all the clone troopers in with the new Bad Batch, especially the 501st will be there, right? And then a bunch of the Jedi that we were talking about a minute ago, along with the Jedi Vanguard, those will be the characters that'll be required for the raid. So if you've got some of these characters already in your roster, you could probably look at Cody, Clone Sergeant, Bad Batch, Echo, etc., being there for the new raid. Again, I'm conjecturing here. I don't know this. I don't know that that's how this is going to work, but it seems to make a lot of sense to me because they can't just make only recent pay-to-win characters there for the raid. They've got to make some of the older characters, even if the older characters are less effective in the raid, they've got to be available. And clone troopers and all the Jedi we're mentioning make all the sense in the world. So if I'm looking at it, I think those are the characters that are going to be out there for the new raid. The next question you ask yourself, and let's get back into Sensuna's roster for this. The next question you ask yourself is, if I take all that into consideration, what does my roster look like right now? Am I ready for all of those types of characters if I include the new characters and a lot of the old characters that we're talking about that should probably be included in the raid? I didn't mention, I would not be shocked at all if Count Dooku. Count Dooku is not in the Endor raid here. Let's pull it up. Yeah. Count Dooku is not included in Separatists here. I could totally see Count Dooku being included in this raid. Absolutely, it would make a lot of sense. So, what does your roster look like? Well, Sensuna's roster looks like no original Bad Batch, no new Bad Batch, and not all that many clone troopers. So, what's the payoff going to be here? You know, if you're farming for the new raid, you don't have all those clone troopers. You don't have a lot of Galactic Republic Jedi that, we got Ki-Adi-Mundi there that may be included. Again, it just makes sense. But there's no Kelleran Beck. I mean, kind of down there low. None of these other characters, just a lot of gaps. Out of the characters we think would be included in this raid, there's a lot of gaps on this roster for Sensuna right now. So should Sensuna just start leveling these characters up right now? Like, this roster is full of gaps of characters that really make a lot of logical sense to be in the Jedi Vanguard raid. We should mention, sometimes the characters don't make a lot of logical sense. It was mentioned in my stream today again by Deacon. General Veers was in the Endor raid, but he was really on Hoth. He wasn't on Endor, although he could have been. I don't know. They didn't show him, but he survived Hoth. He took out the shields, right? So, but we haven't had a Hoth raid, and it just makes sense, the characters I mentioned, that a lot of those characters or all of them would be included. So what does your roster look like right now? What would be the investment for you? Like, the investment for Sensuna would be a lot of shard farming for the Bad Batch. Even the original Bad Batch, a lot of original Bad Batch shard farming, a lot of new Bad Batch shard farming at single shard farming levels, Jedi Vanguard shard farming. Say that 3 times fast. Kelleran Beck farming probably. Clone Sergeant's there. Cody's there. Rex is there. A lot of gear missing on these characters. A lot of Kyrotechs that would be needed for like Shaak Ti and the old Bad Batch, the original Bad Batch. So a lot of distance. There's a lot of distance between her roster and the new raid. And when I say a lot of distance, I mean a lot of distance. Like a few thousand maybe a couple thousand Kyrotechs if we get the characters we think of. there's a big gap between Sensuna's roster and what we think maybe the new Jedi Temple raid will look like. So you got to really consider that. What's it going to cost you on your roster, even with old characters, to get them up and running for the new raid? And speaking of cost, next question we ask is, are you a spender? And if you are a spender, how much are you spending, or how much are you comfortable spending? And we specifically look at that for the new Bad Batch. If you want to get the new Bad Batch up and running by the time the raid gets here and get them relic, well, they're 400 Kyrotex each. I think, I haven't really looked at them, but I assume they're 400 Kyrotex each. It's a lot of single shard farming or buying the characters. All these new characters like Apo that we mentioned, or CX2, or the other clones that are coming, or the Jedi Vanguard that are coming. You know, these are all going to be very expensive characters, and I mean expensive in terms of your wallet. Not just like, it would be expensive for Sensuna to gear up Rex and gear up Fives and gear up Clone Sergeant and gear up Echo, and there's no ARC Trooper here to be seen at all. Gear up the Bad Batch, farm the Bad Batch. That's all expensive in resources. The new characters like Apo and CX2 and everybody else, that's going to be expensive in cash, cold hard cash. So are you spending? And if so, how much are you comfortable spending? Again, we don't know when the raid's going to be here. I really think June to July range seems pretty appropriate for us, and they don't really announce the characters in general, like the full character list, until like a month before the new raid comes out. So we won't really know exactly what other characters are required for that. So if you're comfortable spending a bunch of money, then go get all the new clones and go get your new Bad Batch and get them farmed up and get them relicked, and if you have any old gaps here, you can get those farmed up, and even if they're not included in the raid, you feel comfortable having them geared up. So you got to take all these things into consideration for yourself. And if you're not spending, maybe you should start, like let's talk. I think that this would be the best bet for a roster like Sensuna's if she is like not spending or is a light spender. How about you start farming these characters if the raid is important to you? And by the way, when I said I don't really farm for raids, I'm not saying the raid is not important to me. It is important to me for helping my guild out, getting important materials on my roster that I can use to upgrade my roster. It is important. It is important. How important, that's the question with you and your guild to answer. We'll talk about your guild in a moment. So a good strategy for a roster like this, if you're light spending or not spending, might be, and we can see light spending here. Apple's at 4 stars. That means at least an episode pass was purchased, right? How about farming up all these characters, holding off on other farms for the moment? You know, if we got 2 or 3 months before the raid comes out, let's hold off on all other farms. This is a viable strategy for free-to-play and light-spending rosters. It's just hoarding all of your gear. Farm your shards for your Bad Batch. Farm your shards for your new Bad Batch. Farm your shards for any Galactic Republic characters that you might need on the roster. Keller and Back, I mentioned before, Shock T, whatever, the original Bad Batch. Just farm all those characters, get them up to 7 stars, and save every last piece of gear you can, every last Zeta, every last Omicron. Keep them on hand. Spend 2 months farming for the raid. Spend 2 months farming for the raid and not spending any of that gear or Zetas or Omicrons. Just hoard everything that you can while getting the proposed characters to 7 stars. And then when they announce the characters and you're sitting on them, and you're ready to go, we could look at there. I looked at the Sith. I think you could even see like a Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine included. That would make some sense, right? With Dooku in there, you might even see I don't see Darth Sidious. I think that's it for the Sith. So farm the characters. If you don't have them up to 7 stars, get them to 7 stars. Hoard up all your gear. I'm a big fan of this. This is one of my favorite strategies in the game, is just hoarding gear. When things are uncertain, it's just, you know, you're prepping. Are you a doomsday prepper? If things are uncertain and you're doomsday prepping for the new raid, get the characters farmed to 7 stars and sit on all of your gear. A good way to do that is to put like a gear 12 character or 2 at the top of your roster and just fill out their gear. Just don't apply it You can have all the gear sitting in green. You guys have seen me do this on my free-to-play roster. I have like 400 furnaces right now and like all sorts of other, like all sorts of gear. Hoard it up, save it up, get ready, and when they announce the characters, boom, upgrade, 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 you're ready to go for the new raid, right? And the last question, or maybe the first question that you might want to ask yourself, or that's coming up, how does my guild feel about it? You know, the raid is built for guilds. And if you're looking at your guild, how does your guild feel about it? Is your guild requiring you to farm up for the raid? I've said it once, I've said it often. If you like your guild and you want to be in your guild and you don't want to leave the guild and the guild requires you to farm up for the new raid, guess what you need to be doing, boys and girls? Farm up for that new raid. Now, if that means you go get Appo and you don't have the money to spend on Appo, or you got the new Bad Batch, you can farm them on single shard farming and get ready to go, or you do the aforementioned hoarding. Let's type pre-forementioned. If you made it to this point of the video and you're in the comments, give me a pre-forementioned. Just pre-forementioned, and that's it. Let me know that you made. I'd love to hear from you. The aforementioned hoarding, maybe you're hoarding up for those characters because your guild considers it important, even though you're not super worried about it as an individual. The importance that your guild places on the raids really does matter to you, and I think it matters to everybody in this game. Guilds are important. What your guild does for you is very important. You got to get back to your guild where they require you to, or even where they need you to. So that's how I think you should look at all of the raiding, preparing for the new raid with your roster. If you ask me, with the unsurety, not a word. Might be a word. It might be a word. I don't know. Insurety, dissurety, being unsure of what is down the road for us in the future, and me not being a guy who likes to drop $300 to get characters at 7 stars on day 1. If you're really looking at that raid and you don't have a lot of characters, me personally, I've got a lot of characters ready for it. I mean, I really do. If I look at my Bad Batch, I'm actually farming Omega Fugitive and Batcher and Hunter Mercenary. Actually, I'm holding off on Hunter Mercenary because he's Canteen. I'm using that for signal data right now, but that's a pretty easy farm. It'd be 2 or 3 weeks. I have him at 7 stars if we get the announcement. I'll be farming Wrecker Mercenary, and I'll be farming this team right away. My roster's at a point where I can afford to farm this team. When I look at my clone troopers right now, I'm in pretty good shape here, right? I could relic Arc Trooper and Echo and 5s right now if I needed to. Appo, I won't have Appo ready for the new raid. That's a team I'll be farming as I go, but I've got my old Bad Batch. I could use some Zetas on them. Yeah, I've got those guys there. When I look at my Galactic Republic, you know, I've got some of these bundles purchased. So I've got Bear Sophie sitting there. She could use a Zeta. Where is Bear Sophie? There she is. She could use a Zeta on her. I know. I don't have Jedi Knight Guardian and Ima Gendai and Keller and Beck ready to go, but Keller and Beck is on my radar for very soon. I'm finishing up a couple Galactic Legends and Bo-Katan Mandalore is on my list, so I'll be getting them up very soon. So I do have some plans for stuff, but I'm in pretty good range for the new raid to get some characters up and running, even if I'm not ready on day 1, to get them up and running very quickly for that new raid. So I feel confident in my roster. Take a look at your roster, talk to your guild, see where you sit, consider all these things. What characters are going to be needed possibly? What does your roster look like? Are you spending some money? Do you need to hoard up that gear? And what does your guild want you to do? And that will advise you and inform you as to if you need to farm for the new raid. And there you go, boys and girls. That's my thoughts on that. I do hope everybody has a great day. I will definitely talk to all of you very soon. And of course, always remember, button, Nooch too good.